Welcome to the Busy Technologist's Guide to the Sales Pipeline. We're looking here at stage 2, which is qualification, one of the hardest processes to do well. So qualification is essentially about identifying whether a prospect is a good fit for your product or service. It involves assessing their needs, their budget, their authority, their urgency, ensuring that you can concentrate your efforts where they matter most. By asking the right questions, by engaging in meaningful conversations, you can uncover key insights that will inform your sales strategy moving forwards. As always, we'll cover off the key points of this stage with particular attention to the technologist's point of view. Let's jump in. First and foremost, on the activity side, we have sales calls and meetings. And this is where the magic begins. And those first impressions do count. Conducting a well-structured sales call can help you gauge interest and understand the potential of your lead. Now, as a technologist, you might not actually be on those first calls. While there are both sales reps and technologists involved in the overall deal cycle, most reps are going to deal with these initial inquiries themselves. That said, there may well be plenty of occasions where drawing a subject matter expert into the room makes sense. And the more the end sale depends on deep technical or scientific conversations, the more likely that any given call is going to have an expert on the line from either side. Some companies use different methods as well. There's value workshops, for instance. Value workshops are a slightly different beast, and a lot of companies have specialized value consultants, typically very experienced. They're focusing their time as much on working with customers to establish the business impact of a new technology, purchase, or initiative as the technology itself. I'll also mention that companies focused on product-led growth will usually qualify in a very different way. Rather than using personal interactions to qualify prospects, a product-led company looks instead to using data to see which companies are most heavily using their self-service channels. Now, these well-structured sales calls don't just happen naturally. There's a few materials sales teams typically have available or make for themselves. It's good to have a call template. Some things are universal, like understanding who you're talking to, but any product I've worked with has its specific points of interest. To give you an example, when I was at Looker, we knew that people using cloud data warehouses were great potential customers, but customers with old school on-premise Microsoft databases, for instance, were not. Because most products are not sold in isolation or into brand new greenfield environments, they have their more and their less valuable pairings, situations that correlate with value delivered. Part of qualification is being clear on where your strengths are, so that you can focus your time. Companies will also have a sales deck. Everyone hates death by PowerPoint, so we'll tend to not break out the slides on a first call. Even so, a good deck is a good summary of your product, of your company, of your value proposition. So they're essential reading materials for qualification calls. And I'll include a couple of links that discuss some of the really well-regarded decks that we've seen from Salesforce and Zurora. Having these various materials helps you remember your key points, and having a routine that highlights your standout moments will help you stay sharp and effective. At the same time, especially in tech, the landscape is always changing pretty quickly, so what you knew yesterday isn't necessarily what you're going to need to talk about tomorrow, so be ready to pivot. The primary goal of qualification is new opportunities. Now, the sales pipeline is going to quantify the number and value of opportunities created, and over time, the win-loss rate of converting those opportunities into deals. While the maths is relatively simple, there's a lot of judgment required of the account team. We need to be able to identify realistic opportunities, estimate their value, and figure out a plan to keep them moving along. So how do we do that? Well, you might have heard of the 6 honest serving men. I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. So the classic questions, the classic open questions, are all good things to keep in mind when qualifying a prospect. It's good to start with the who, and you do that even before you get onto the call. In other words, are you talking to someone who fits your ideal customer profile? Are there similarities to other customers who have done well with your product or service? Then there needs to be a reason for buying your product. So are you clear on what the problem to be solved is? If there's no pain to address, if there's no project to be delivered, Is there really a prospective customer here? And finally, let's smash why and when together to form the all-time champion of qualification questions. Why now? This is a great question because bad timing can break even the best of opportunities. If there's no budget available, if it's a great idea but they just bought your competitor's solution last week, if you find the perfect champion but they've just resigned, all of these things can kill a deal. If you're speaking to someone who is similar to your other customers and they can clearly articulate why they need to act, that is a good opportunity. Let's wrap up with a couple of tips. First of all, on any given lead, don't fool yourself. We can be endlessly inventive in convincing ourselves that a bad to mediocre lead is a real opportunity, but you simply don't have the time to chase up every lead that shows a glimmer of promise. It's important to be able to qualify out as well as in. From a practical point of view, try to have a collection of links, articles, videos and so on so that you can gracefully provide some assistance but also move on. You may be speaking to that same person later in the future. Second, as we seek to establish rapport and credibility, straightforward curiosity is probably the best way to get there. As the old saying goes, be interested, not interesting. It's really easy to get caught up on wanting to impress your prospects with your knowledge and your technology, and it's a particular risk for the technologists. We like talking about our technology. So instead, focus on understanding their needs, their challenges, their objectives. Ask questions, listen actively. Remember, it is not about you. So over the next stages, we're going to get deeper into working with our qualified opportunities on how they solve their problems, which for my money is the really interesting bit, at least for the technologist. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is John Walls, and I've worked as a technologist for over 20 years, helping tech companies bring their products to market. I also make videos about it, especially the roles, the tools, and the techniques available to the scientists, technologists, and engineers involved. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.